this is something I learned from Rosemary Clooney. She had better time than most musicians I've ever played with. It's amazing how good you can make a band sound if you can have this kind of rhythmic power.
That's the legendary Scott Hamilton. He was our special guest for an exclusive masterclass inside Sax School for our members recently, where we were talking about jazz ballads and saxophone playing over that style. It's something we're really digging into at the moment, and it's something I want to share with you today as well, because I want to discuss why I think jazz ballads are so important for all saxophone players to learn. Plus, I'm going to share with you 5 key takeaways from the Scott Hamilton Masterclass that I think is fantastic. It'll help you with your playing, whether you're into jazz ballads or jazz playing, or just want to get better as a saxophone player. So some good lessons to dig into. In fact, lots to talk about today. Let's get started. G'day, it's Nigel here from Sax School. Hey, thanks so much for joining me for another one of these videos. It's great to have you here. If you are new here, then consider clicking that subscribe button and the bell notification so you find out about future videos. So we've got quite a lot to talk about in the session today, and you know what? This whole masterclass is actually available as a replay inside the member area, along with like 1,000 other lessons, including all of our other masterclasses with world famous saxophone players. If you want to check it out, as I'm filming this, we have a 14-day trial running. So if you're quick, you can sign up for that. The link is in the description down below, or you can go to our website, Sax School Online, and go to the courses page and you can register for it there. It's free to get started, and it's a great way for you to try out the lessons and see what you think and see how we can help you. Now, I really love to play in all different styles as a saxophone player, and we cover all different styles inside Sax School too, from pop to blues to bebop to ska, classical. But really, jazz is something that I'm really super passionate about. Specifically, I love those old school players, the guys from the 40s through to the 60s, like Ben Webster, Lester Young, Coleman Hawkins, Dexter Gordon. In fact, you can watch our video on Dexter Gordon up here. All those players really speak to me because for them, and I guess the playing that I like from those players is the ballad playing. It's because for them it's really about beautiful melodies, having a wonderful big fat sound and really connecting with the music. So for me, really, that's what jazz ballads are all about. It's about telling a great story with your saxophone. Jazz ballads are accessible, they're easier to understand, they're great to listen to, and they're also a fantastic way to understand more about jazz or even about your playing and the way that you connect with music. So we dig into it quite a lot in Sax School. In fact, this month in Sax School, we're focusing on jazz ballads, and all of our members are learning a ballad challenge song. So it's something that we take really, really seriously. So to get back to Scott Hamilton, in the late 70s, there was this new young player that rocked up in New York, and he was doing something completely different to everybody else. He was playing in a kind of old school style, like Lester Young or Coleman Hawkins or Ben Webster, and he really blew everybody away because what he was doing was such a contrast to everything else that was happening at the time. Because if you think about it, in the late 70s, it was just a few years after John Coltrane had recorded A Love Supreme. Herbie Hancock was recording with the Headhunters. Fusion was really getting going. Michael Brecker was recording with the Brecker Brothers. You know, there was some really aggressive, fast music happening, but this guy was doing something completely different. This, of course, was Scott Hamilton, and his career just went ballistic from there. He was touring with Benny Goodman. He spent years recording and touring with Rosemary Clooney, and he started recording his own albums as well. In fact, he's done over 60 albums as a leader. And he's even got a new album coming out this year. So Scott Hamilton really became recognized as the master of that swing tenor sound for a living current player. So Scott Hamilton for me really captures that whole style of the classic jazz ballad on tenor sax. And so I really wanted to find out more about him and how he approaches his playing, because it's something we talk about a lot in Sax School. Now in Sax School, one of the reasons why our members make fast progress is because we spend a lot of time talking about the way that we approach practice, and we talk about our 4-step practice routine. In fact, there's a video on that up here if you're curious to know more about it. But I wanted to know from Scott Hamilton what his approach was to learning saxophone. he's an old school style player. So did he learn in the practice room, or did he learn his style in a more of an old school way on the bandstand?
On the bandstand, really. I mean, I practiced, fairly hard as a beginner when I was in Providence, in my parents' house. I would play for a couple hours at a time, and really try to figure things out. But by the time I'd been playing for a couple of years, I was starting to get gigs. I had a little band of my own in Providence, and we were working. You had to play 4 hours a night for dancers, and it was a quartet, so I could play anything I wanted. That was tremendous practice, and that was where I really learned to, when you're under the gun like that, you really have to work hard, and you really have to, you can't shy away from it, and I was dedicated. So, it really paid off, and I improved very quickly.
I wanted to find out what sort of players Scott was listening to when he was younger. Was it Ben Webster, Coleman Hawkins, Lester Young, those kind of guys?
I was very much a fan of a lot of guys like Gene Ammons and Sonny Stitt and Paul Gonsalves and Eddie Lovejoy Davis and Jimmy Forrest, Stanley Turrentine. Houston Person was a guy who I had a lot of records by when I was young, and I still love Houston. In terms of sound, I was really only interested in guys who played with a really robust, fat sound. Now, the fact that comes in many different flavors, means that I would try one thing for a few weeks, and I would try another thing for a few weeks. Eventually, if you keep at it long enough, you do end up with a recognizable sound of your own, a voice. But I was in my late 20s before I really began to even hear that in myself. I had been recording for a few years before I really found a with clarity and focus, and I try to play as naturally as I possibly can at this point. But this is after years of consciously striving for a sound that I like. Very useful to have tunnel vision, like I would make my focus was very narrow, and I would take on one particular thing, and nothing outside of that would interest me, but that's a very good tool for learning.
Now, there's one last thing I wanted to ask Scott about, and that was his sense of time. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, hang on, we're talking about jazz ballads here. Is time even really an important thing? But the thing is, if you listen to any great recordings, whether that's from instrumentalists or singers over beautiful jazz ballads, then time is absolutely important. In fact, I would say it's the thing that really separates an average recording and an amazing recording, or a less experienced artist and a really experienced professional artist. Sense of time is so important. And if you listen closely to Scott Hamilton's playing, his time is completely locked in. So I wanted to know, how did Scott develop that? Was that something that came natural, or was that something that he had to work on?
I've always been attracted to players that were rhythmically strong and connected to the rhythm section, you know. And I've always tried to be independent in that when I played, in other words, that I should be as strong as the drummer in terms of rhythm. Like, you should, this is something I learned from Rosemary Clooney, you know. She had better time than most musicians I've ever played with. Uncanny, perfect time, really.
And I'm thinking I wouldn't mind at all. Love is cheerful.
It's amazing how good you can make a band sound if you can have this kind of rhythmic power, you know. But you have to really, it has to be within yourself, you know.
How do you cultivate that though, Scott? Like, do you remember what you did to try and maybe did you already have that, or was that something you had to work on?
I was always attracted to it. And I can remember times when I thought, I wish I could play this phrase and make it swing, because when I hear it done that way, when Joe Turner sings this phrase, or when Roy Eldridge plays this phrase, it swings. When I play it, it sounds like duck, duck, duck. And over time, I found, you know, just, I can remember like years after I thought that, discovering that I could play those phrases and that they worked.
So that's a little taster of our Scott Hamilton session, but there was so much more that was covered in the full masterclass. I really enjoyed this session with Scott, and if you get a chance to watch this masterclass, I think you'll really enjoy it too. Now, don't forget the 14-day trial is running at the moment, and you can register for the 14-day trial to see the entire masterclass replay for this. But just to recap the points that we covered in the session today, first of all, was that Scott made faster progress by putting what he was learning into action and playing with others. So learn fast by playing with others. Second lesson here is find the sound that you love, not just the player, and really explore players that have that sound. Lesson 3, play with clarity, focus, and as naturally as possible. Lesson 4, focus on one thing at a time. Really dig into it to get the most out of it in your development. And lesson 5, study the rhythm of the players that you love and see how you can emulate that in your own playing. Well, I really hope you enjoyed this video today. I really loved making it for you, and there's a bunch of other videos like this on the channel here, so please go and explore the other videos here. And if you really want to take things further, then go check out that 14-day trial to Sax School, because the tutor team and me, we're all here waiting to help you, and you can join in with the thousands of other students that we have that are learning with Sax School every single day. There's challenges, there's more live masterclasses, there's over 1,000 lessons in the lesson library. There's tons to help you at whatever stage you're at and for whatever style of music you're interested in. But for now, keep practicing hard, and I'll catch you next time.